So this weekend, we see Wycombe pick up their first win in 8, Brentford's first defeat in 22, and we are seeing some mad developments in the relegation and promotion battle. What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Today is today's review on Matchday 29 of the Championship weekend, and I'm quite intrigued and excited to get through this weekend. Obviously we only had 10 games being played due to 2 matches being postponed due to a frozen pitch, but we have got 12 games, fingers crossed, still going ahead in midweek. If you got a correct score, your comment will be on the screen as of now. Well done to all of you that did get a correct score. I had another stinker, 0 correct scores. I think I'm just really unlucky. A lot of the times I get correct results. I've made some brave calls, including Derby to beat Middlesbrough, but I just can't for the life of me get the correct score. This is what the Lexus Hall of Fame looks like now. I've got a lot of catching up to do. But if you guys like what you see, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If we can hit 10 likes on this video, that'd be fantastically appreciated. If you can subscribe to this channel, that would also really make my day as well. And please share my channel to as many people as you can. With any further ado, let's go through the 10 games we saw this weekend. So we'll start off with Friday's game, the Lancashire Derby, and it was Preston North End with the win in the Lancashire Derby with a 2-1 away victory. One of the results, I dare say, I really did not see coming. But fair play to Preston. They really took the game to Blackburn, really putting them under pressure actually. But if you look at the stats in the 90 minutes, you can notice that there's a really big divide in terms of possession and chances. And Blackburn had a lot of them, but unfortunately for Blackburn, they were incredibly wasteful. And Preston, with the quite a few chances that they had, they've only had 3 shots on target, but 2 of those 3 shots turned into goals. They definitely had a more clinical instinct than Blackburn did. Their first goal came from Greg Cunningham, who has had a very welcome return going into Deepdale. It was a fantastic pass actually by Alan Brown to find him on the left hand side. He drove forward, and the precise effort to hit in the bottom right corner was absolutely sublime from Greg Cunningham. It was a great goal that made it 1-0. It got to 2-0 pretty quickly as well from Liam Lindsay with a header. Very poor defending overall from Jared Branthwaite there. He really should have done a lot better with that. But Liam Lindsay, being about half his height, managed to get the header off him, and that made it 2-0. But Blackburn all of a sudden woke up. They really pushed in the final 5 or 10 minutes of that first half. They won a penalty. Very dubious. I think a bit harsh on Hughes fouling Sam Gallagher in the box. It was a great play originally by Ryan Iambe to create that opportunity. Adam Armstrong stepped up, and that made it 2-1. And a vital save came round in literally the final minutes of that half. Armstrong from about 2 yards out has a great shot, and Iverson with a point blank save keeps it out. I tell you what, if he conceded and it was 2-2, would have been an entirely different game. That, for me, literally saved the match for Preston. And in the second half, what suited them, it was a pretty cagey game. Not many chances were happening in that second half. Preston find themselves 11th place in the table, 7 points off the top 6. So their playoff hopes are still relatively alive. As with Blackburn right now, they're slipping away from any chances of getting into that top 6 as well, especially if they don't improve their form right now. They're currently 9th place with back-to-back defeats as well. They definitely need to pick themselves up as soon as they can. They've entered the game at the City Ground, and it's a disappointing 0-0 draw, and I'm so annoyed in this one because I was originally going to predict a 0-0, but then I thought, okay, both these sides might actually have a big chance of quality. I'll make it 1-1. But Bournemouth didn't have a shot on target in that entire game, which was very disappointing on my part. I was really excited to see how the likes of Ben Pearson and Shane Long were going to get on. I've not seen a lot of Bournemouth in terms of integrating with their new signings. I think Will Shearer as well was fantastic for them when they needed him. Bournemouth, I dare say, in that first half created the best chances, but unfortunately they just couldn't really get them on target. There was one chance when Shane Long had a great chance. If he just headed the ball down, it would have been 1-0 Bournemouth easily, but unfortunately he headed it a little bit over the goal. Nottingham Forest, I think, definitely were the better side in that second half. They were much improved. Knockhart was being a handful, and if it wasn't from a Ben Pearson goal line clearance, then I think Nottingham Forest would have actually got something in this game. But Pearson, I thought, was great for Bournemouth. I thought in the midfield, he was one of their better players, breaking up the play. There's a frustration with Bournemouth. You get the feeling that they are underachieving for what kind of squad and calibre of players they've got in that pitch. Can they make it to the top 6 if they keep Woodgate in charge? I think you've got to really judge them in terms of the next couple of games that they've got. In terms of Nottingham Forest, it's another clean sheet, another point. 16th place they are in the table right now. It's going to be intriguing once again to see how Nottingham Forest do in their next 5 or so games. If they can start climbing up the table, or if they're going to stay where they are. teetering around just above the relegation battle or just being a mid-table position. We're going to have to wait and see, but there's a load of potential there. And then the alarm bells are ringing around in Birmingham. It is Birmingham 0, Luton 1, and I'll tell you what, it was one of the worst reactions I've seen from Birmingham fans on Twitter for a long time. A lot of people ordering the owner to get out of the club, and Aitor Karanka right now is steering the side into a relegation battle with only 3 points collected in a possible 36 games with 1 win in their last 12 games. It's just absolutely unacceptable, really. But Luton managed to get the away win, and it was a very simple goal. It was a long throw by Harry Cornick. They couldn't really defend it well, Birmingham. Collins managed a great shot, which Etheridge does well to save, but then it falls kindly to Dan Potts, which no one really marks. He has the easiest goal he could score that made it 1-0. And honestly, Luton had the better chances. They could have scored more goals. Jordan Clark had a fantastic opportunity. James Collins near the beginning of the game had a great chance when Tom Lockyer had a long ball. And then the battle between George Friend and Collins, embarrassing really. Collins got past George Friend far too easily and probably should have done better with his opportunity. Birmingham looked the most threatening from their set pieces. Sluga was barely tested though in that goal. He really could have gone to a holiday. Birmingham only had 1 shot on target in that game. Despite actually having more of the ball, they just really couldn't create a lot with it. And there's a lot of warning signs going around with Birmingham right now for how little they created and the lack of quality they have on the pitch. As for Luton, only their 7th away goal this season, but it puts them in a reasonable position, 15th place in the table. I don't think they'll get relegated, but I don't think they'll get top 6. I think they're just happy to be where they are and they'll be in a mid-table position. And what a turnaround we're seeing from Cardiff City right now. Following this 3-1 victory for Cardiff against Coventry, they now find themselves the challengers of the top 6, just like that. We were saying a couple of weeks ago they were 16th place within 7 points away from the top 6, looking like it was going to be so unlikely for Cardiff to be in there. And look at this, right now Cardiff are only 2 points behind Bournemouth. And you've got to give credit for Mick McCarthy. He's added a new bit of impetus to this Cardiff side. I know they did not have a lot of the ball in that game, and in terms of chances go, Coventry had by and large the most amount of chances, 21 shots that Coventry had. But likewise with Blackburn against Preston, they were incredibly wasteful with their chances, and Cardiff made their chances count. Kiefer Moore scoring 2 great goals. The first goal was fantastic work by Josh Murphy on the left-hand side, laying the ball to Kiefer Moore. Great composure on his part. He loses his man, cuts into the box and shoots it past Marossi. That made it 1-0. The second goal was a complete gift. Marossi tried to clear a ball by punching it, and the ball just fall very, very kindly to Kiefer Moore. It was going to be the easiest goal he would have scored. That made it 2-0 to Cardiff. And from that moment onwards, Cardiff were just absolutely cruising. And in the second half, that continued. And it was Josh Murphy, who I thought was terrific throughout that entire game. He got a very, very well-deserved goal. And I have to say, a very clever goal as well. Kiefer Moore was fouled, and a quick free kick taken by Perry NG, who I've not seen a lot of, but I knew he made a great impact. And I tell you what, seeing Perry NG for like the first time I visually have seen him, he has been absolutely brilliant. Very intelligent, quick free kick by Perry NG to find Josh Murphy running in a lot of space. That made it 3-0. And it was then Coventry looked a threat. All of a sudden now, Coventry started bombarding forward. I mean, I think Cardiff were just naturally taking their foot off the gas. They weren't really pressing Coventry as much. They weren't really trying to win the ball off them. They allowed Coventry to have their chances. And eventually they got their goal. And it was a goal by Dominic Hyam. It was actually from a free kick, the header was won, and then it just bounced kindly to him. Cardiff couldn't really defend it. That made it 3-1 in the final result. I know Coventry have looked okay, but if you look at it, they've only had 7 wins all season and only 1 win in their last 6 games. And Coventry just slowly but surely are starting to slip away into the relegation battle. Putting into perspective, they're only 3 points ahead of 22nd place Sheffield Wednesday, so they definitely need to watch their backs if they want to try and ensure survival. As for Cardiff, fantastic form they find themselves, 5 games unbeaten, 3 wins in a row. Cardiff are skyrocketing up the table, and Mick McCarthy's working his championship magic once again. Then Derby with a very crucial win when they needed it. They got a 2-1 victory, and believe it or not now, Derby have now picked up more points at their home ground now they have done away from home. And we previously said a couple of weeks ago, Derby have had the worst home form in the whole league. But now that record goes to Birmingham because Derby, fair play to them, they've picked up 3 wins in a row at home. So they're doing fantastically well, Derby. in terms of gaining points in Pride Park now. They got the lead from Lee Gregory. It was a fantastic goal, actually. It was from a corner. Then Butchman manages to header it to Lee Gregory, who headers his header. That made it 1-0 to Derby. And then Derby were just fantastic in that first opening bit of the game. They were really pressing Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough just couldn't really get a foothold in this game. And it was Colin Kazim-Richards with the second. Blimey, what a goal it was. He was literally just outside the D and bang, literally the roof of the net with Bettinelli with no chance. The power and the precision was absolutely exquisite. That made it 2-0 to Derby. Although Colin Kazim-Richards turns from hero to zero because he gives the ball away very, very cheaply to Bowler, who manages to drive forward with the ball. He manages to find Liskens Cabano, which is the first time I've seen him from the Middlesbrough squad. I thought he was fantastic, making a big impact to the game. He got the goal that made it 2-1. And overall, in the second half, it was very scrappy. Very, very few chances, which really suited Derby because they needed to keep hold of this win. And following this win, they're now 19th place in the table. They find themselves in a fantastic position, actually. And they've got games in hand. And if they win those games in hand, they'll definitely ease their chances of getting survival. Middlesbrough right now, I don't know what has gone wrong with them. They've been doing so well recently, but now all of a sudden they're winless in 5 and 4 wins out of their last 5 games. Neil Warner definitely needs to try and resolve this, and they've been lucky in a way that teams below them have also been dropping points as well, because if they haven't, then Middlesbrough will be out of sight by now. And then to one of the maddest games I've seen in recent Championship history in terms of this year. Huddersfield 2, Wycombe Wanderers 3. You could not write this stuff. Huddersfield got the lead. It was fantastically worked by Junio Bakuna. It was actually Fraser Campbell who manages to supply the ball to Bakuna, and he shoots very, very confidently. Pass also that made it 1-0 to Huddersfield. Wycombe go in the other end of the pitch and they antagonisingly do not get their equalised by a heroic goal line clearance from Naby Sarr. But from that goal line clearance, a couple of minutes later, bang, Huddersfield punish Wycombe for missing their chance and they make it 2-0. And I thought it was going to be another cruel day for Wycombe. But how wrong was I? The character that Wycombe showed when they were 2 goals down, they managed to get 1 goal before half-time. It was Anis Mehmeti who managed to get a fantastically struck goal that made it 2-1 to Wycombe. And that second half, I mean, Huddersfield completely disappeared. They literally turned to custard. They literally could not get hold of the ball and they couldn't really do anything with it. It was Wycombe just bombarding Huddersfield with so many chances. They won a penalty. Joe Jacobson scored that. It was a poor challenge by Hogg. I mean, I don't know what he was doing. And then to make it 3-2, the knight in shining armour who got the goal was Josh Knight. That made it 3-2. And what an unbelievable performance by Gareth Ainsworth. And the thing is with Wycombe, we've only seen his performances once in a blue moon. I guarantee you now, after this win, they'll go on a streak of 10 games without a win. And that is what's going to ultimately cost Wycombe, because you can see they've got it within them. If they can pull off 3 goals away from home and they can pull off a mad comeback like this, especially with things not going their way. They are 10 points behind Rotherham. So to be fair to Wycombe, because of this win, they've now not been completely cut adrift, but they need some consistency. If they can get some consistency, then Wycombe might have a slight chance. As with Huddersfield, I mean, right now, it's not great run of form as well. It's 8 games without a win for them, 4 defeats in their last 6 games as well. Do you change managers now? Is it a board thing? I mean, personally, because I felt their last 2 performances weren't too bad, but they're not getting points even when they're playing well, which is a concerning sign. Then Norwich not managing to score a goal in 4 games. They score 4 goals in 1 game against Stoke City, making it 4-1. And I tell you what, it was them getting Emiliano Buendia back that got the difference. He was involved in nearly every single goal in this game. Todd Cantwell managed to get the first goal, and to be fair to Cantwell, it was a fantastic bit of individual skill. Very underrated pass by Vrancic actually to do a backheel pass. Great teamwork actually for him to have that sort of pass take place. Great goal by Cantwell, making it 1-0 to the Canaries. Pookie got the second one. It was really poor by Morgan Fox. Buendia really presses Morgan Fox and he wins the ball off him, literally running right through this defence. It's a difficult one for Pookie where he squared to, but Pookie manages to shoot it past Gunn that made it 2-0. And honestly, Gunn was so good in goal. He actually made some really, really big saves. Although Stoke really had a couple of real gilt-edged chances. One of them where Fletcher was literally one-on-one and he missed. Krul manages to make the save. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And Norwich at times were a little bit careless at the back, and it did catch up to them. Giannuis, the new signing in left back, gave the ball away straight to Nick Powell, who ran through, and he did take his chance that made it 2-1. Although Giannuis went from 0 to hero. He manages to run in the left-hand side. Really good play from him actually to hold up the ball like that. Teed it up to Buendia, and bang, he had a fantastic first-time shot that got into the net. And then it ended 4-1, where Buendia manages to win a penalty and Pukki slots it home. That made it 4-1. Stoke, I think, for me, just was completely out of the game. Once again, things not going their way. They did have a goal disallowed for offside, and I thought it was very tight. It's 9 games without a win for Stoke, and they really, I felt, missed an opportunity to try and get into that top 6 places, especially with the squad that they have. As with Norwich, it's a fantastic week for them, following that Brentford have lost the game. I saw them in recently 18-19 season, where they've had scary runs of form, looking like that they could drop out of the race, but then it only takes one performance and they can resume their season again, and I think that is going to be the game that defies that. And then a rare win for Millwall. They get a 2-1 away victory with Reading, and Reading, this is 2 defeats in a row. It was Reading though that took the lead, and it was a fantastic goal actually by Semedo, where I do think he intended to shot it. I think some people have said it was a tackle that was fantastically struck and it caught Bielkowski off goal. But I think it was a shot where Sean Williams doesn't really do well to try and keep hold of the ball from Bielkowski's throat. That made it 1-0 to Reading. But Millwall, to be fair to them, really tried to fight back, especially in the second half. The first half was a bit boring, if I'm going to be honest with you. Quite cagey overall. In fact, the best chance of that game for Millwall was them when they managed to hit the post by Evans. In the second half, Millwall definitely competed more. They really played the game to Reading. They had a more physical battle, and because of this, Reading were put severely under pressure, and eventually Millwall's high press got them a goal, and it was well deserved as well. It was quite scrappy at the end of this. Tom Bradshaw had a scuff shot, but it found Matt Smith practically free, and that made it 1-1. And following it was 1-1, it really could have gone either way. Both sides were having some fantastic chances. Ajaria hit the bar, but it was Mill that got the win, and it was from a Mason Bennett header, where I think it was poor defending on Reading's part. I tell you what, Millwall right now, once again, like a load of these sides who looked very concerned with their runs of form, Millwall have recovered their form. They're now undefeated in 6 and have got back-to-back wins as well for the first time this season. Whereas with Reading right now, they've now had back-to-back defeats. Definitely feel out of all of the sides in the top 6 now, I do see Reading as being a side that can definitely be very exposed, especially if they can't pick their form up. And then to a result you can only see in the Championship, Watford 6, Bristol City 0. There's no way I'm going to remember all 6 of these goals, but I'll really try my best. The first one has got those people talking. Isn't it a goal by Taylor Moore, or is it a goal by Ken Seymour? It was Sarr driving in the right-hand side. He has a cross, which is deflected by Taylor Moore, and does the ball already go in the net before Seymour heads it in? For me, it doesn't quite cross the line, but you are free to disagree on that. Sarr gets 2 goals of his own, though, and Seymour manages to assist one of them as well. Will Hughes probably scores the best goal of the game, although it looks incredible, but actually it gets a huge deflection of Moore, where he didn't really have a good game at all, really. The other goal scorer in the game was Philip Zinkernagel, managing to get his first goal for Watford. Watford really could have even scored even more goals. And what was really concerning for me was how poor Bristol City looked defensively. Anything that went in their box, it looked like the defenders really just were so nervous. Watford, we have criticised them recently as a bit similar to Bournemouth, a team that looks too good than what it's actually performing right now. But this, for the first time, is Watford for me at their best, and they need to have this sort of attacking quality constantly if Watford are going to continue trying to fight for the promotion and at least stay in the top 6. Watford following this win, they're in 4th place right now, and definitely if they can continue with their goal scoring and they can continue with a good run of form, then I think Watford may be an outside possibility of sneaking into the battle for promotion place. Bristol City, first time they've been in the bottom half of the table since the start of the season, and following at the start of the season they were with Reading, you know, in the top 2 places of the table. Just goes to show how quickly a team's season could change in the Championship. 5 defeats in their last 6 games has not been good for Bristol City whatsoever, and whatever the source of the problem is, I think it's been down to their defence and their overall setup. They definitely need to address it, otherwise they could even fall even lower than when they are at the moment. And then the final game to go over is yesterday's game. Brentford finally lose their unbeaten streak in the Championship. 21 games unbeaten in the Championship is quite remarkable, but they lose it once again to the hands of Barnsley. Barnsley, who managed to beat them away from home last year to ensure championship survival, do so again. And it was a brilliant performance by Barnsley. And it was very similar performance I saw against Chelsea, actually. Very high intensity and press. And it really got to Brentford, actually. And it was a little bit surprising that I saw Brentford as sluggish as they were. Barnsley, despite playing on Thursday, they looked completely fresh and they really were up for this game. They made it a very competitive game. Chaplin got the first goal. Reyes probably feeling a little bit unlucky that he couldn't quite save it, but it would have been an unbelievable save if he really did pull that off. Brentford should have responded immediately. De Silva had a fantastic chance, actually, but when he shot wide, I thought, it's going to be one of those days for Brentford, isn't it? And it turned out to be one of those. Godos had a chance where Canos manages to tee him up in the centre of the box, but Collins makes the save. Collins had two dodgy moments in goal, spilling the ball pretty carelessly, but luckily for Barnsley's part, Brentford couldn't capitalise and tap it in. Carlton Morris, he scores his first goal for Barnsley, and he was absolutely terrific. And I tell you what, Barnsley's signings have been fantastic. Daryl Dike as well, who I did see briefly, I thought was fantastic as well. Following this defeat for Brentford, they missed a big opportunity to state some authority in the promotion race. And right now, Swansea have got a game in hand over them. Following that, Swansea couldn't play this weekend. If they win that game in hand, Brentford will be third place in the table. So it's definitely looking like a 3-horse race for that promotion race at the moment. Definitely a bit similar to the 18-19 season where we had Norwich, Sheffield United and Leeds fighting for those top 3 places. But that wraps up my review for all 10 championship games this weekend. On the left hand side is the current championship table after 29 games being played. Norwich and Brentford are the top 2. The top 6, you've got Swansea, Watford, Reading and Bournemouth, which is completely unchanged. Top half of the table, you've got Cardiff for the first time really pushing for those top 6 places now. What an unbelievable run they've gone on under Mick McCarthy. Then you find Middlesbrough, then Blackburn, Stoke, Preston and then Barnsley making up the top half of the table. Then you've got Bristol City falling as low as 13th, then Millwall, Luton, Nottingham Forest and Queen's Park Rangers. The teams in the bottom half but relatively safe. Then the teams in danger, you've got Huddersfield, Derby, Coventry and Rotherham just outside. And in the bottom 3, you've got Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham and Wycombe Wanderers. But before we move on to my midweek predictions, I'm going to predict my goal of the weekend, player of the weekend and result of the weekend. Goal of the weekend's difficult, but the goal I'm going to give it to is Colin Kazim-Richards' goal, because I know without a doubt it didn't have a huge deflection. It was a really well struck shot by his part. I'm going to give my goal of the weekend to Colin Kazim-Richards. The result of the weekend for me, for one that sticks out, is Huddersfield 2, Wycombe 3 for an outstanding turnaround for Wycombe Wanderers. I'm going to give my result of the weekend to Wycombe Wanderers. Now, player of the weekend. This has been the hardest one for me to do one in a while. I want to give it to Watford player for the fact that they really smashed Bristol City by 6-0. I'm actually going to give it to someone you may not have expected me to give it to, but I'm actually going to give it to Emiliano Buendia for the fact that he returned to a Norwich squad really poor run of form, and he got them firing in all cylinders and was involved pretty much with all the goals that Norwich scored as well. I'm going to give my player of the weekend to Emiliano Buendia. Before we end the video, now it's time to predict the midweek games in the Championship. Preston and Watford are first. For some strange reason, I see this game being quite disappointing. I'm going to say a 0-0 draw, actually. Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, I'm so torn. Either 0-0 or 1-1. I'm actually going to say 1-1, but if it ends 0-0, I am done with predicting games. I really am, because it's really been unlucky for me in the past couple of weeks. Bristol City and Reading. I think Reading will edge this one. I'm going to say 2-1 Reading. Middlesbrough and Huddersfield, both in poor runs of form. I'm going to say Middlesbrough will bounce back. I'm going to say 2-1 Middlesbrough. Wycombe and Derby. I think Derby may edge this one, you know. I think Derby, definitely with their performances, I think can definitely get a result here. I'm going to say 2-1 Derby. Luton, Cardiff. Once again, really tight, but I think Cardiff may just edge this one following for how good they've been in form. Although Luton, you know, you can definitely see them ending a good run of form. We saw them do one recently when they had a 3-1 victory over Norwich, who looked like they were going to storm the Championship. I'm going to say 2-1 to Cardiff. I think they may just edge this one. Coventry and Norwich. Once again, I think Norwich may just edge this one 2-1 again. Millwall and Birmingham. Once again, I'm so torn. 1-1 and 0-0. Okay, I said 1-1 for Stoke and Sheffield Wednesday. For this one, Millwall and Birmingham, I'll say 0-0. But I tell you what, I will be so disappointed if I'm wrong for both of them. Queen's Park Rangers and Brentford, of course, a West London derby. I'm intrigued to see what happens. It was 3-1 in Brentford Community Stadium. I think it'll be 3-1 in the Kieran Prince Stadium. But to the away side, I'm going to say 3-1 to Brentford. I think they'll bounce back. Swansea and Nottingham Forest. Forest would not want to have a repeat of what happened last time. They got smashed by 5-1 in the FA Cup. I'm going to say a narrow 1-0 win for Swansea. I think Forest will make it tough for them to break down. Barnsley and Blackburn, once again, really close. I don't see too much within it. I think Barnsley may just edge this one. I'm going to say 1-0 to Barnsley. Finally, Bournemouth and Rotherham. I think Bournemouth may be okay for this one. I'm going to say 2-1 Bournemouth. But that wraps it up for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. It would really, really make my day. And please, if you can, please share my channel to as many people as you can. All of that would really make my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you've seen the end of this video. And as always, take care, everyone.